dude. Wow. What is going on? What is going What is going Oh my gosh. I don't think so, dude. Oh, look at the mouth on that bass. Gosh.
Hey, we're back home from the first split of the season, Toledo Bend, Lake Fork. Just kind of wanted to give everybody a quick shout out, say thanks for the support. Had two good tournaments, had a top 20 and then a top 10. So I wanted to kind of show everybody how I caught them, what I was doing, some fish catches along the way, and just say thanks for all that you guys following along and keeping up with me in the text and the messages. It's been a great start to the season. The start of the season was crazy. Had two winners already. Kyoya won at Toledo. I was fishing around him the first 3 days. He beat me. I mean, he caught fish right where I was fishing and caught the big ones. I just struggled on day 3, but congrats to Kyoya. And then we go to Lake Fork. Trey McKinney, 19 years old, the youngest kid to ever win a Bassmaster Elite Series event. Congrats to him. He's unbelievable. Really good angler. Knows what to do. Knows how to find them in practice. That seems to be something that is challenging for a lot of guys, is being able to figure out in practice. Those rookies that are here this year, no joke. They know what's going on. They know how to fish. They know how to catch them. And they're not all what people are saying scopers. Those boys know how to catch bass, and they're just using the tools that they have in the toolbox to get it done. Congrats to Trey and all those rookies that have made top 10s and top 20s so far. They're going to be hard to handle for years to come. Let's start at Toledo Bend. That was the kickoff for the 2024 Elite Series season, and I hadn't been there since I think my first season on the Elites. There was another major tournament there a few weeks prior, so guys kind of had an idea of what those fish were doing, and I was kind of under the impression that we're coming in towards March. The weather had been warm, the water was warm, and those fish were going to be moving shallow. I practiced shallow. I practiced on the bank. I practiced looking for those pre-spawn that was right on the edge of the grass in some of those areas. And for me, I kept backing out, looking at active target, trying to kind of get an idea of just where the biggest majority of the fish was. And every time I got out and started looking around on my screen, I started seeing the fish out there in the middle still. So I kind of got an idea that in that particular area where I was fishing, and Kyoya and a few of the other guys and most of the top 10, that those fish were still out. Now, they did move in as the week went on, but for me, it was kind of a 1-2 approach to the tournament. So I caught them at Toledo on... This is a Young Forward facing sonar minnow, and the deal with this one is this is the 4-inch version. So we've had a 3-inch version out for a while. I was throwing a 3-inch on a 1/2 ounce head. The wind was blowing most of the tournament, so those fish, if they were deeper on the screen, I was catching them on the 1/2 ounce with the 3-inch. But we have 2 new sizes this year coming out here at the Classic. So this is a 4-inch version, and there's also a 5-inch version. So vibrating jig trailer, spinnerbait trailer if you'd like to throw the covert, or just throwing it on a jig head. This is an absolute killer bait. I was throwing a 4-inch version on a little lighter head, throwing it on 12-pound Seagar and VizX fluorocarbon tied to a 10-pound Smackdown braid leader. Throwing the same rod that I always do, 610 medium light. This is H2OX Evo. Great rod for whatever you want to call it, minnow fishing, hover fishing. Got a loop knot tied to my jig head just so I get a little more action out of it. But I was throwing those 2 baits exclusively. I had 3 or 4 different head sizes depending on wind and how deep the fish were. But throwing the 4-inch version, throwing the 3-inch version for the deeper fish. Just struggled on day 3. A lot of boats in the area where I was catching them, and Kyoya was, and a few of the other guys. I chose to leave that area, struggled on day 3, ended up finishing 15th, had a great tournament to start this season out. If you think that you can handle this, you gotta know you've been messing with savages, we're savages. Yeah!
Broken words, broken bones, broken windows in our broken homes. Can't you?
Well, we didn't get much of a break. We had to go straight to Lake Fork. Those were back-to-back tournaments. So Sunday didn't make the top 10, so I drove up to Lake Fork. Practice started on Monday. And we had all this warm weather. First day of practice, I get out there and realize that the water's warm. And we had a whole week coming up of warm weather of practice, but then we had a cold front coming. So for me, I tried to find fish that were in several different stages of the spawn, pre-spawn. Did find some spawning fish, but practice wasn't that great. Caught a few fish here and there, but you'll see in some of these fish catches that day one, I chose to fish in a little pond, a little backwater pond. Caught fish on a vibrating jig. But for me, day one was about location. I had an area that had grass in it, caught those fish shallow, caught a couple big ones on the vibrating jig, and then moved out and caught a couple key fish on day one on the Wacky Rig Yum Dinger. This is dirt purple, just a 1/0 hook, 10-pound InvisX, 10-pound Smackdown braid. It's a great combination, same rod, 610 medium light that I was throwing my minnow on. It's just a good overall rod for that. But I caught that 910 on day one on the Yum Christie crawl, and I throw this bait a lot. I've talked about it a lot, but usually I throw white. But at Lake Fork, those fish don't really like white on a bed, so I was throwing green pumpkin, purple flake. 25-pound Seaguar InvisX. I upped the line size tremendously just because I knew I was going to be fishing around some big fish. This is the 7.3 heavy Evo rod from H2OX. Gear ratio 8:1 reel. Just because I wanted to be able to make a lot of pitches in there on those beds. There wasn't that many, but I maximized what I had found and caught that 910 off the bed. It was a lot of fun, but then later in the day we moved out, had to start looking around. I noticed there wasn't as many fish on the screen. Mind you, it was sleeting the first morning of the tournament, so the temps dropped tremendously. Caught what I could. Things started changing. Ended up later in the day having to move out. Caught one key fish, a 7-pounder on the Yum Dinger. This is dirt purple, my favorite color. Same setup. This is actually 10-pound InvisX, 10-pound Smackdown braid, same rod, H2OX Evo. Though that's a critical fish. It took me from 34 pounds to 37 pounds late in the day. It's things like that, those decisions that put you in contention, put me in second place after day one. Day two, you got to watch me on live. I went out in second place, and I really struggled. I tried to fish the same way I'd caught them day one. Things had changed. The conditions has changed. It was just a grind. But I ended up catching a key fish on day two that keyed me in for the rest of the week. Sonar minnow, again, this exact setup, 4-inch version. Caught a 6-pounder late in the day, and that keyed me in for day three. I knew I had to go out there and catch a big bag. So sonar minnow, dinger, and then I kind of figured out, I started in this creek on day three, and I ended up catching a big one on the Rogue. This is the Smithwick Super Rogue, custom paint job by Nick Folks. Does a great job for me, paints all my baits that I have custom painted. It's a great bait to get big bites. I really figured out early in the day on day three that the jerkbait was going to be a key player for the rest of the tournament. You guys got to watch day four. Caught 35 pounds on day three. Went out day four, caught 25 pounds. Ended up finishing sixth place. The jerkbait played a huge role throughout the rest of the final finishing day of the tournament. But top 10 finish, can't complain with that. To me, having this kind of start to the season is a great way to begin. Just knowing that made the right decisions. Those tournaments weren't easy. Being able to set it up going into the Classic. You know, Classic week is coming right up here soon. Appreciate all the support. Grand Lake, I know what's going on there. It's I've been there a bunch of times. I really enjoy this March time of the year. Feel good about that tournament, and I can tell you this, Grand Lake, we're coming for you.